Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like initially to thank Giorgio Spadoni and his association for providing me with this opportunity to speak briefly to you and introduce to you PRISM International. As Giorgio said, my name is Eugene Gibney, and I'm from Ireland, specifically Dublin. And I've been a member of the record management industry as managing director and chairman of two businesses, both in Dublin and in London, for the last 12 years. And I'm a board member of PRISM International, one of two European members on an international board of 10 people. So, what is PRISM International? It's the Professional Records Information Services Management, and it's a not-for-profit trade association for the commercial information management industry. And the vision of PRISM is to be visible, particularly under the key areas of advocacy, education, and networking. And they are the three areas of focus that I will just refer to very briefly as we go through the presentation. Their mission is to obviously attract and retain members by becoming indispensable. And I have to say personally, from my own point of view and from our business, they have achieved that in our case and helped us tremendously over the last 12 years. What is the international membership? Well, PRISM is made up of outsourcing partners and in-house practitioners that provide their clients with physical or digital information, and that includes archivists and librarians. And the industry body itself was founded in 1980 in the United States, but has expanded over those years to more than 60 international companies. And we have about 600 to 700 full-time corporate members. There are affiliate members and associate members, but full-time corporate members worldwide. Under the heading of advocacy, as you are more than aware, there is increased emphasis in business on corporate governance and the introduction of quite a range of legislation, both here in the United States, in Sarbanes-Oxley, etc. And given the content of today's presentation, earlier presentations, PRISM have raised their profile in Europe and are part of an advisory group of experts advising the European Committee for Standardization on fire codes. And just for your own information, you'll see there that the Italian contact is Mr. Cristiano Fiamani. And I do have his details if anybody wants them after the current issues at EU level, which we're heavily involved in monitoring and supporting, is the information, the legislation that's coming forward for privacy, and also the data protection legislation, and the lifestyle management documentation form. And these are particular aspects of legislation that we, as an industry, need to be familiar with in order to support our members. And just a little success story for us. We have been asked to participate on a number of occasions at European Commission level, on advisory councils, and we've been included in the Data Retention Advisory Committee. And we were successful in the last few weeks in having some elements of our requirements for members. In other words, in the data protection legislation, which is primarily there to assist terrorism, counter-terrorism, you are required, or will be required when it becomes law, to retain telephone records and emails for between 6 months and 12 months. And as part of the final paper going for approval, the industry body, PRISM, and its members are included in that as being suitable locations for the storage of confidential data and documentation. The second area that the prison focuses on for its members is education. There are European conferences held each year. There's also a world international conference held in the United States on an annual basis. And there have been a non-qualified success in educating. So you have suppliers, you have people speaking on various aspects of the industry at these conferences, and keep the people up to date on all that's happening in the world of records management. We recently introduced workshops focusing on topics such as the fundamentals of records management, scanning and imaging into Europe. They've been hugely successful in the United States, and now we have already had 2 workshops in Europe. You can gain access through prison to update on studies or the various papers. A particular example would be at our conference in 2008, the Iron Mountain in London were, I suppose, generous enough to commit a full day to explaining the background to the fire at their facility in Covey Road in London. And also, after the 9/11 disaster, the members in the New Jersey and New York area came together and did a full presentation on how they coped with that disaster and the response that they made to their customers. In addition, in New Orleans after Katrina, again, the members were able to demonstrate how they responded to the difficulties of their customers. And you will probably see in some of the publications outside there's a disaster recovery notebook available to people as a part of the publication. There are other obvious benefits to membership of PRISM. PRISM is a very dynamic organization for the record management industry and for information specialists. But they have practical information available to people like standard storage agreements, disaster planning notebooks, and there's a very good French standard which I commend to in relation to building codes and fire codes. It's NF342. All of these are in your notes. Also, we provide pension schedules, guidelines for many industries: health, engineering, banking, etc. Other benefits, members, of ongoing communication, the quarterly journal called In Focus, a bi-monthly newsletter, and a quarterly EU newsletter, which is primarily devoted to legislative affairs and keeping you up to date on the market risks. When I joined PRISM, networking in most other industries that I've been in is simply getting together with people at conferences and connecting. But in fact, in PRISM, it's a culture. When I attended my first PRISM conference in Atlanta 12 years ago, at the breakfast meeting, I was surrounded by 3 or 4 long-established PRISM members, and they proceeded for the next 2.5 to 3 hours to educate me on the basic aspects of the industry. And I would say that education saved us, me personally, and our business, a lot of money in not making the mistakes that we might have made in going into this industry. But in addition to that, there's a mentoring program, and it was introduced just 2 years ago, and senior members of the industry are available to new beginners, or indeed to coach or mentor on any particular subject in relation to record management. Just this year, we've introduced a community website. This is very similar to LinkedIn, but specific to the record management industry, in that you can communicate any particular question you have in relation to barcodes, standards, the building of a facility, or indeed any aspect of your business through the community website, and you will will always find somebody who is prepared to support you. And just as an indication of the type of industry that it is, and the sharing and the generosity of people, very recently, only in August of this year, one of our members had an unfortunate fire at their facility in Albuquerque, in New Mexico, and within 3 weeks, he was prepared to share the various aspects of the cause of the fire, the standards, the requirements that they had in place, and in fact those that they should have had in place. So that gives you some indication of how open people are in prison and sharing with their fellow. There is outside available membership forms for people to join prison, but just to give you an indication, the cost of prison is minimal. Whether you're a company, a corporate member, you're talking about 14 euros per week. For an individual member, as an associate member, it's less than 5 euros. So to gain access to all of the resources that prison has is a very minimal cost. And I'd certainly commend it to people who have an interest in record management, whether that's record keeping, archiving, library, in order to give you access to this type of information and the support that is out there from people. From my point of view, I'm privileged today. I made a commitment that because of the support that I've had from prison members, that I would devote my time to promoting prison on a worldwide stage as a way of repaying people for the services they provided to me personally and to our business, which helped our business grow in the UK and Ireland from 2 million to 20 million turnover. And I attribute a very sizable proportion of that to the membership. The contact details are available again in your pack. We have a European Secretary based in Brussels, and if you want further details prior to membership, then I would ask you that they are the contact details at the end of your report. Just like to thank you for your time and attention and for the opportunity to speak to you today. Mille grazie.